Hello everyone, today I want to show you an interesting visual which shows a bar within a bar chart. So I will first explain to you how I use it in my real life practice, and I'll show you how to create it after that. So I actually use it for showing the salary range and also the recommended pay range by grade. I use this a lot in HR. It's actually very practical. So in HR, for example, for each of those job level that we set, we usually have a range that designated basically how much we should be paying for this job level, and then it can have a usually have a minimum, midpoint, and a max. So that's a wider, like the wider gray bars that I'm showing on the background. And I also purposely made everyone made the visual starting at zero, so visually it's more condensed. But I do have the labeling here, so you can tell how much it is actually for the minimum for each of those job levels. And then in HR, we might also have something called a recommended pay range or the market pay range. So it's a narrow range for each of those job levels. And then for my user case, it's most of the time within the salary structure range. It's just a narrow bar. And we might just like this might be a range that we choose to pay for a certain job family, for all the jobs or all the job families within a certain job level. So for example, I also made up the data here, and then you can see, for example, for grade 9, this is the recommended pay minimum, midpoint, and max for a specific job of mine, and I choose to show that in a narrow bar in different colors so that you can tell the minimum is 187 and then the maximum we pay is 135. If the chart is big enough, you can definitely also show the midpoint as well. So this is how I use it, and definitely for whatever practice you are in, you can also use it for finance, for sales, for your purpose. So without further ado, so let's now take a look at how to create it. I'm using Excel 2013, and I think any version above or even below it should be pretty easy to recreate this. So this is a chart. I'm showing it here as a reference. This is my data table, and then I do also have two helper table to help me to create this chart. So the first one, so let me explain to you what they are. So for the first one, it's corresponding to my wider bars. The first one is starting point. This is basically just me telling myself every bar starts from zero. The mid is what I use to create the gray bar. So the formula is all formula driven. It's the midpoint minus the minimum. The max is the minus minimum. And the top label. So I will is basically those two adding up. I will show you why I need it. So essentially for this chart, you will find that basically we need two parts to finish it. One is how to create the bars, and how one is how to create the labels to show what we want to show. So this part of data is not for the bars, it's just for the labels. I'll show you that. So and then you have all those done, and then just copy down the formula to get to the other job levels. And then we come to the recommended pay level. So the starting point is different. The starting point here, as you can see, is actually the gap between the recommended minimum to the range minimum. So you can see it's actually, like for example, for grade 9, it is the gap between 140 to 187. So again, copy the formula down. Mid, still the midpoint minus minimum. Max is max minus midpoint. Top label the same, adding those two up. Okay, so now we have the tables ready. Let's go create the charts. So to do the wider bar first, select those two columns. Go to insert, select bars. You can actually select both columns and bars. I chose to do bar, and you select stacked bar. And then let me put it here to make it look nicer. So it's something that looking like this. But then one thing I notice is that when I do when Excel automatically does it, it doesn't give me the right vertical axis, right? Like my 9 should have the most, should have the longest bar. So what I need to do is actually go to an empty place, select data, and then change my horizontal my axis label to this. Yeah, and then now you see it's all looking good. So now let's first make the bars look what we want. So I would first change the width. So yeah, so if you do that by adjusting the gap width. So if it's 0, it means everything's stacked together. So you can choose that to change. I choose to have it as 15, so now it's looking big and fat, which I think is easier to see. You can do whatever you want. And then let me change the color. I want the color to look grayish. And I do want two different color for my bars. Yeah, so now it's looking like this. And then now let's create, oh yeah, oh it's just Excel refreshing. Okay, so now we have the bars. Now let's create the labels. So actually, well, first actually, if you want your legends to look exactly what you want, so because for example the gray bar is indeed not midpoint, it's indeed minimum to midpoint. So one thing you can do is to go select data and then go to here, edit, and then change your series name. So for example in this case I can say range salary range mean to mid. So then it's crystal clear. And then the same thing for here, salary range mid to max. Yeah. Okay, so now that's good. Let's add the label in. So actually, I need to add data label. Yeah, just add data label. Add data label to it. And if you just do that, it's not giving you the number you want, right? For example, for grade 1, you actually want to show 23, 34, and 44, right? Like it's not right. So that's not the right way to do it. So now you select your data. That's not the right way to do it. So to do this, actually, first select your bar, like select your leftmost bar, add data label to it, but then select the label and then go format data label. Yeah, this will give you this selection. So now you can tell that automatically Excel selects the value for you, which you do not want. You actually want it to be chart. Oh, actually, I cannot do it like this. Okay, so let me redo it. So you go here, add data label, and then select the label, format data label. Here you go. You don't unclick this first because then you go back to what I did. You select value from cell. It then pops up a select data label range. You go select the actual range minimum. Go OK. And here you go. So you have the 23, 29, you have the range minimum to show. And then now you have the right label, you unclick the value and then it shows you it's gone. And then it's now placed in center. You don't want it to be center, you want it to be inside base to show actually that's a starting point of your range. So that's it. And then you select the next set of bar, again add label to it. You would probably guess what I'm doing, gonna do now. So I again go to value from cell, go to my range mid, go select it. And then now I have my midpoint, and I choose to go inside base. So it's following this. And then how do I do the bars for the max? This is where we need the top label. So let me show you that. So now to do that, select anywhere empty, select data, add top label, or whatever, you just select this. And then your value is gonna be this. And then now you can see by doing this, you automatically added a bar to your chart, right? So, which is fine. Like now what you need to do is actually just make it white out so you don't see them. And you might also have to just select the grid line and then remove it so that your chart doesn't look so wonky. And then you actually only need this part, right? But Excel just automatically give you all the empty space. So now what you need to do is actually to change the reference for your axis. So in this case, actually, I only need as much as 120. Why do I need as much as 120? Because for my top label, I just need as much as 120 here. So I go max 120, and then you can see here is my reference. So now you will still be able to select the bars, but it's just white out, so you cannot see them. So select them at data label, and you are gonna guess what I'm doing now. So select the actual max, and then delete the value, and then make them all inside base. And then here we go. So you have now, this is the first step. Like you have the reference for all your salary range, and then now have their labels. You actually do not need the axis. We will delete at the end, but let's keep it. I'll show you why I need it. So now let's go ahead, create the same thing for my recommended bars. So the main methods is actually quite similar. You just select, like in the same chart, you select the columns that you want to use, and then insert. No, actually, sorry. Actually, in the same one, you actually select data, and then you add. So what I'm adding here is first the recommended minimum, and then the zero value is this bar. Okay, yep, I'm adding it. And then the next one is the recommended minimum to mid. So let's add it. Select this bar. No, actually this bar. Only the data. Yep. And then okay. And then add. Series name is recommended mid to max. And then value is this bar. Okay, cool. So, well, actually let's create one more for the top label. So recommended top label. And then this. Yeah. Okay, cool. So now this is how the chart's gonna look like. Of course, it's not what we want, and then we want them to basically align with within the bar that we want, right? So how do we do this? You select the data series, go to format data series, and then go to, it's going to show you the serial options. You are going to plot it in a secondary axis. And then now this is where it is. And then now let's change the gap width. Let's see. I think last time I chose 150. Yeah. So let's assume this is the width that I want. And you can choose whatever you want to, of course. And then you do the same thing for the other ones. So select this bar, go to secondary axis, make sure you change the gap width, say 150. The same here, 150. And same here, secondary 150. Okay, all good. Now the second thing you need to do here is to make sure the primary axis and the secondary axis are exactly the same. So it is up to 120 here. So we want to make the secondary to be max at 122. Okay, so now it looks the same as the one below, then we can delete it because the number here is actually does not make sense for our purpose for the chart. So let's just delete it so that we don't confuse our audience. And then now let's clean up the this bar, so this narrow bar. So this part apparently is just a filler for the gap between the recommended range minimum and the range minimum. So now let's select the bars and then just make it exactly the same color as the bar underneath so that it's showing as nothing. And then for the top bar, because it's just for labeling purpose, we don't need it. So actually let's just make it transparent. So it's empty, and then we're just left with exactly the bar that we want. So now let's fill the color as desired. Fill color, and then I choose to, and then let's add the label into it. So for example, so you can see actually in my original chart, I choose not to add the label for the midpoint because it's quite close together and it might confuse your audience. So I actually, if I delete it, it's actually neater. And then let's say for this one, we want to add the labeling. So for this, you go to add data label, same drill. You go to your minimum, unselect value, make sure it's inside base. You can even change the color if you choose to. Same drill for the max. You go for here, and then you add the data labeling. Select the data labeling, select the format, value is the max, and then make sure it's inside base, and then unclick. Yeah, or you can choose it to be inside base. Yeah, so like this. Yeah, or actually if you choose to show it within the blue bar, you can also do that. So for that, you just click on the blue bar, add data label, and again do the same thing. Value is the max, unclick the value, and then make sure it's inside end, so it goes to the other end. And then because it's blue, you cannot see. So now let's just make the font to be white so you can see it more clearly. Yeah. And then here you see the labeling. This you don't want it. It doesn't tell you anything, so just delete it. And then for the other ones, like the recommended minimum, you don't need it. Again, delete it. Recommended top labeling. Okay, so now you have just those 4 legends to explain to you what the chart is. And then now you can add the chart title, salary range, and recommended pay range by grade. Yeah. Okay, so I think you might also notice I have horizontal grid line. So if that's something that you are also interested in, select the chart. Select, make sure you select the chart, and then format plot area. And then you can choose to add. Okay, so it's not here. So select the plot area, go to chart design, add chart elements, grid line, and then add primary major horizontal lines. So now it's giving you all those horizontal lines. If you don't like the style, then you can go format, grid line, and then you can go for, let's say, a dash format. You can also increase the size of it, and then it gives you the chart that you want. Okay, cool. So that is all that I want to share with you today. I hope that you find it helpful. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to my channel if you like it. If you have any question, please leave me a comment and I will talk to you very soon.